Critical once said something pretty hardcore. I find it incredibly hard to believe when someone says they have no friends, because that's pretty much impossible these days.
Everyone has friends. No matter how much of a up you are or how outrageous the things you believe are, you will always have people that are on your side.
I don't think I've ever had friends. Not like real friends.
Oh.
When you get to this age, you just don't have friends anymore.
People are probably never gonna like me, so I will never like people.
Okay.
And I'm okay by myself.
So clearly, not everyone may feel that's true. Of course, Critical wasn't saying it idealistically in the first place, though I kind of like the sentiment that everyone has something redeeming about them, that everyone belongs somewhere. Instead, we're gonna talk about a few videos that show it isn't always true. You might have already recognized them. 14 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. There's nothing new about being lonely. So what do we get out of listening to these people fight head to head with loneliness if there's nothing new? How about a little comfort that we're not alone? Even if everyone around us doesn't seem to be struggling like we do. If we've always been told that friendship is supposed to be effortless, but we end up with no friends because it's always too much effort, then maybe in order to have friends, it's time to change our mind. I'm Phil. I'm Pierce. I'm Todd. And everything not saved will be lost. Safe to say, here are some things about friendship that aren't lost. Let's start with a viral classic, To the Guy Who Wants to Know Why He's Lonely and Sad, from 2010.
I wanted to point out that everybody feels this way sometimes. Everybody. It's happened to me so many times. It happens to everyone. And I think a lot of it lies in the fact that humans are social creatures by nature.
Have you ever questioned your very existence because you felt lonely and, more specifically, out of place? Like you don't belong anywhere? Because I don't really believe that everybody experiences that. It's more than just isolation. It's alienation. But I want to believe it though, that everyone has ever felt alienated, because I think it's important to experience pain like that, even if it hurts a bunch. Helps us grow.
You draw yourself away from other people, and that makes the problem worse. And when you realize that you're lonely, you don't really remember how to fix it because you've spent so much time avoiding people.
She describes alienation a bit, but doesn't really go into it. We'll talk about the extent of it later, but basically it's an existential crisis. Am I incapable of making friends? Am I not meant to make friends? I don't know how to make friends. Her answer here doesn't put any real weight on it, but that's okay too. Less weight can help us spiral less and be less paralyzed.
You're lonely and you want friends? Then you have to go places.
Well, nothing's stopping us from having just internet friends. More on that later as well.
You have to get back in touch with those people you haven't talked to in months or maybe even years, and you have to tell them that you want to hang out or ask them to tell you about any parties that are happening.
I mean, she's right in saying that if we want a shot at even having friends, we have to do what she said and reach out, but she doesn't address the crucial part that we shouldn't just rush in immediately when we're probably at our lowest or desperate and needy. That's the wrong energy for trying to connect with anyone, even people that we used to know. That energy is even worse for going to parties because we need to
be confident that you are an interesting person. No matter what you have told yourself for years, no matter what you've heard negative people say about you.
If I had to guess, usually loners don't become loners by being charismatic and smooth. And a party is the deep end of social skills, a dense social environment of people we don't really know. Okay, maybe it's possible to speedrun interactions without any warm-up to make friends sooner, but I don't know if just saying basically ignore all the haters and be ourselves yields good results. We would still suggest some self-development before putting ourselves out there, and maybe something a little bit less intense. I feel like unless we are exceptionally resilient individuals who are ultra-driven to break the cycle of chronic loneliness, all the rejections, awkwardness, and possibly even cringe moments we'll face would be enough to break any mortal loner to never want to be around people again.
Because every person is responsible for their own happiness. And if you really don't want to be sad anymore, you have to take matters into your own hands.
Yes, individual responsibility. We like this. So one legitimate way to focus on ourselves is by having hobbies. Yeah, don't make friendship the primary goal because that brings our needy desperateness out full force. When the hobby is the primary goal, we can build friendships on the side. So even if we mess up, there's still the main hobby thing to smoothen out the whole situation. And because the hobby is genuinely for ourselves, it's not like we'll stop doing it. So we have never-ending contacts to keep being out there to make friends. Okay, now that the warm-up is over, this next one gets a little heavy. I have no friends from 2022. So in the interest of maximizing the use of our time together, we're gonna paraphrase things which may make us seem like cold, emotionless people. But all I can say to that is we've totally been where she's been before. Except maybe Todd. Hey! But we have to keep moving along. So let's go. Fine. In 2022, this girl was entering her mid-20s, living near Dartmouth campus. She's sitting alone in her apartment at her desk, staring at her computer like 99.999% of every other Saturday.
I mean, obviously, I had like friends in high school and college, but it was the most superficial level. If I was in class, I would have people to talk to, and I would do after-school activities, and people would talk to me, and I had people that I was close to. But we never did anything besides that.
In the previous video, we more or less played into the common misconception that friendless loners are weird, awkward, and bad at talking to people. Whereas here, we have this girl who's a realistic example of a loner. Someone with articulate communication, analytical thinking, fairly well-adjusted, and is capable of plenty of normal-looking interactions that just lead to nothing. So, how'd it happen? Most often, we can chalk it up to bad luck, situationally, like moving far away, or lack of curiosity or bravery, as in straight up not asking more important questions to the people we've interacted with.
There was a girl I met on Bumble, but...
Before I go into her short story about this friend, and it is a friend because in case anyone wasn't aware, Bumble has a friend function. Right here, I want to acknowledge that this is effort. Do you know anyone around you who's met friends through Bumble BFF? Where I'm from, starting real life friendships from online isn't normalized yet, I think. So maybe I'm overstating how much initiative this shows, but I'm not going to discount that this is a step more than most may take. So good on this girl for even getting this far, regardless of the result.
I never went anywhere and she moved.
Sure, it's unfortunate that it didn't pan out, but right idea anyway. So they would meet, her friend would invite her over to bake, she didn't really make conversation, and every time her friend texted, she'd wait like a day to respond. When they made plans, she'd feel awkward about it because all she wanted was to be back in her apartment.
And do you know what? It's my fault. Because... you know, I complain about not having anyone, but the minute anyone does come to my life and I have a chance, I do nothing with it. So it's like, what the f*** is wrong with me that I complain about this and then I make no effort to try to change it?
Right? Why are humans like that, ourselves included? After all this time, we still have no idea. All we know is always start by checking how much of the problem is our fault. And this girl is doing an amazing job at that. And sometimes an amazing job feels terrible. Anyway, usually when everyone is the problem, we're the problem. Unfortunately, it's not enough to just be self-aware. Producing real solutions to make change happen comes down to committing resources, like time, energy, attention. Committing can be hard. We can rely on brute force, discipline, and time management, or we can try shifting our perspective to make it easier. For example, there's nothing better than being friends.
I mentioned earlier that I'm about to enter my mid-20s and I feel like I have no experiences or social skills.
Remember what I said about realistic loners having social skills? This here acts like a caveat because even though she can acknowledge that she's not an awkward weirdo, she preemptively knows that not having any friends indefinitely may lead to a life not well lived, plus her social skills rusting, which may actually turn her into one.
I just don't know what's wrong with me. That I can't make it work. That I'm just lazy when it comes to making friends.
This is exactly what we meant when we asked at the start of the first video, have you ever questioned your very existence because you felt lonely and more specifically, out of place?
I just feel so lonely. I'm just so lonely all the time.
Have you ever cried over it, sat yourself down and been like, what's wrong with me? Because this is true alienation. This is what I'm actually referring to when I say existential crisis. It's being lost and afraid. I'm not just saying existential for fun.
But I'm also terrified of it, and I also want to be alone. Like, maybe I'm just meant to be alone.
I do think that some people are meant to be alone. But it's obviously not this girl. For people meant to be alone, loneliness doesn't hurt, I think.
I just want it to be easy, you know?
It might be less that we want it to be easy and more like, shouldn't it be easy? Like, shouldn't it come naturally and feel effortless? But it doesn't. So at that point, I'm like, do I even remember how to make friends? Did I ever even know? But if there's anything I've learned about growing up, is that everything takes effort And that includes even fun, feel-good pursuits like friendship.
How do we make friends? I don't know how to make friends, and I'm scared. I just want to run into somebody. I hate meeting people online.
But she still did it. That's effort and initiative right there. What'd I tell you? You ever text someone and it goes well and then meet them only to realize that face-to-face y'all don't click? That's why she hates meeting people online. That's why...
I feel like I need to meet people. I need to meet people, but I don't know how.
And that's how we know this time when she asks, how do we make friends? It's not only existential, but also logistical. I mean, we get it. It's so hard to get anyone to do anything. It takes so much work, setting aside time, getting ready, going out, texting. Like just doing the most fundamental tier D stuff can be enough of an obstacle, especially in the 40-hour work week of a regular working adult. Unfortunately, pulling it off is the worst combination. Simple, but not easy. Commit resources. Make time, allocate energy. It only gets easier the more used to it we get.
I don't know how to make myself more invested, and when someone texts, to text back immediately and to not to say, oh, I want my alone time when I'm alone all the time.
We'll refer back to the mindset shift of, there's nothing better than being friends. Like, what's one of the things you like to do with your life? Have friends, right? I mean, friends make each other feel seen. We have to see them too, and that takes effort. But it's more like we want to see them, right? When we want to put in the effort, it becomes worth doing, even if not entirely effortless. That's the journey of seeing each other for what we are as we age. Okay, we know that wouldn't really cut it as a practical solution. So for texting, just fix a time period or two in a day, like half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening to text everyone you need to. At least you'll never be more than half a day late, ideally.
I gotta join all those student organizations. I gotta get a job and talk to the people. I gotta be on Bumble BFF. I gotta join groups.
Yeah, and that's how it goes. Simple but not easy. Commit those resources. Meet more people. Make more effort to be out there. Again, respect on her for her openness to the alternative, non-traditional ways of meeting people with Bumble. There's also meetup.com and geographical or interest-based subreddits that might have posts for making friends too.
Either that needs to change, or I need to just be okay with it. I think I'm gonna give it another year of the first option, and then after that, we'll talk about acceptance.
Acceptance, huh? This brings us back to, are some people meant to be alone? Will anyone say being alone is a painless, neutral existence? Maybe Phil. Yeah? Maybe loneliness doesn't hurt. Or it's possible to simply not feel lonely despite being alone all the time. This brings us to our final loner. He's a YouTuber who recorded this back in 2021 when he was 31.
You know, I was that kid that sat at the table with 3 other people that were also like the super rejects. That's where I met my friends. From kindergarten up, we did everything together. That was a really awesome thing that happened in my life.
See, another realistic loner who's also had friends before. Not some extreme case of being congenitally outcasted with zero sense of socialization. Basically, these in-betweens exist. People who look and sound completely normal and well-adjusted, but somehow still end up without friends.
When I got to my late 20s, those friends disappeared. And it's not because they were like, I hate you, Cody. It's, life happens. People get married, they move across the country, they were just gone.
In his case, it's exactly what we mentioned about situational bad luck, like moving far away. We don't know if his adolescent friendships were shallow, but it's hard to be deep and full of substance as kids or teenagers, so we don't think that's anyone's fault. More importantly, let's talk about drifting apart. It's the concept of faraway friends who live in another country or state that we meet only for a period in our life. We don't announce cutting these people off. There's no big fight or leaving on bad terms. We just don't notice they're not there anymore. Some people here might say this counts as the friendship ending, but nothing's really stopping us from reaching out as friends, just for fun, if we don't mind not being able to meet them.
You know the story about me anyway.
So he got married and his wife pretty much became his whole life, because this was around the time that all his friends were moving away or drifting apart.
We were together about 8 years, and then she left. So I was totally alone.
Yeah, I think this is a trap couples have to be cautious about, just letting everything outside the relationship wither and die. Of course, as always, it's not exactly easy to maintain social lives on top of work and being a partner, so we don't think that we should be too hard on ourselves. But it doesn't change the fact that recurring interactions is the only definitive way to keep friendships alive.
And over the last couple of years, I've came to accept this. I thought to myself, hey, Like, when you get to this age, you just don't have friends anymore.
This is exactly what we wanted to know, the possibility of living a painless, neutral existence. No, just you. Unlike the previous mid-20s girl, this guy actually reached a point of acceptance where he eventually didn't feel hurt or alienated like he doesn't belong.
And it's kind of a hard realization to come to, but it just seemed normal. Everybody my age seems the same. That just seems how it is nowadays.
And that's exactly what might be helping to enable his acceptance. He sees that having no friends is normal around him for people his age. No wonder he could feel neutral about it and not alienated. Because he's not out of place. He's like everyone around him. That's the opposite of what the previous girl observes around her living near a college campus, where everybody roughly her age is socializing, so that's normal to her. What I observe that's normal to me is the majority of people around my age getting married and still maintaining their friendships without really having to think too much into it. So yeah, based on our benchmarks of normal, it does make sense how we end up feeling whatever amount of alienated and existential that we do.
They were the people from my YouTube community.
Here, Cody mentions how he has no friends in real life, but talks with members of his community regularly, like actually has text conversations.
Recently, we had a meetup, guys. We went to Orlando with 16 people, maybe.
Look, when I said nothing stopping us from making friends online, this is exactly the role model of that. This is probably the best version of the stuff Critical was referring to at the start, that everyone has a niche of people that they belong to on the internet. The reason why this is the role model or best version is because honestly, the odds of internet friends meeting in real life are pretty low. Like, it's not something to be expected out of internet friends. Imagine being part of something, believing we're owed a meetup like this, and it never happens. That could just make us more bitter than we started. So we appreciate the bonuses for what they are. Privileges.
And I learned that these people that chose to come to this get-together with me I learned that they were my real friends.
Abba and Preach mentioned it first, that sometimes we don't know what we're missing until we have it. Now, in any other scenario, we could call it lifestyle inflation, but if we had to pick a way to upgrade our lifestyle, friendship would be one of the best ways. Like, what's one of the things you'd like to do with your life? Have friends, right? Like, real friends. He feels what that means.
Real friends.
Real friends. Do we know it when we feel it? Something about real-life interaction just can't be beaten with anything else. Cody then goes on to read a message one of his friends sent him after the meetup.
And my social skills are jack shit because in 37 years I've had exactly 2 friendships that weren't whatever because of the horrible relationship I was in.
This brings us back to the previous mid-20s girl who was worried about growing old without having core experiences and social skills.
No, experiences or social skills.
Clearly, even if you do become that estranged from socializing, it's never too late to make friends. Also, 2 friends that weren't whatever because of a horrible relationship. Alright, again, we really shouldn't be letting romance cut everyone else off. Like, it can be the priority, but not the only thing left.
I was so hesitant on coming on this trip, and I'm so glad I did. You folks have not only saved my life, but keep me looking forward and improving. I'm thankful for each and every one of you.
I said before that friendship is about making each other feel seen. What I really meant was, it's when someone else sees us that our existence is confirmed. Sometimes we only exist because we're seen. We'll never know how we save each other's lives all the time by being real friends.
You feel alone. We all feel alone sometimes.
Alright, full circle. Back where we started.
Everybody feels this way sometimes. Everybody.
Where are the alienated people around me? Where are the alienated people around you? It really shouldn't matter.
It's comforting to know that we all feel similar. Some of us do.
I like to believe it, even if it's not around me, that people are hurting a bunch. Are growing. However, the only way to grow is simple, but not easy. Not effortless. So, if we should have friends, then commit. Live well. Here at LTAp, we make content about what it means to live well, as a kind of answer to everything. There could be billions of different interpretations to this, since ultimately everybody gets to decide for themselves individually. But if you're interested in our suggestions, you could stick around with us. We have a lot to answer. for a friend.